The Paris Eternal opened the series against Philadelphia Fusion in Week 5 of the Overwatch League, with 2 unexpectedly dominant map wins on Ilios and Junkertown, the latter in which we covered in a previous video. But after some halftime adjustments, the Fusion were able to regroup after a brutal start to the day and bounce back with 2 wins of their own on Blizzard World and Hanamura to tie up the series and send things into a map 5 on Oasis. This was clearly a fan favorite to watch, and many of you requested this specific fight to be broken down by us. So let's look deeper at what exactly happened during all of the commotion on this episode of Behind the Action. With no McCree, Widowmaker, Moira, or Reinhardt during Week 5's hero pool, both the Eternal and Fusion mirrored each other, opting for a composition of Tracer Soldier as the DPS, Winston Diva on tank duty, and Brig paired with Zenyatta. This set of heroes provides dive pressure, fighting power, and a set of ultimates great for contesting control points. With such an aggressive set of heroes from both teams, the map breaks out with a skirmish as the point begins to unlock. Even though the Eternal manages to make their way onto the point faster than the Fusion, the latter moves as a unit to take over the high ground walkway, forcing Eternal to retreat down to the stairs onto ground level. This advantage is short-lived, as XC manages to catch an over-aggressive Carpe and gets the pick, punishing the Fusion's Tracer for trying to go for a flank. With a 5v6 at hand, the Eternal rushed the Fusion with no smite leading the charge, even though soon falls to Ivy, kills onto Fusion's support duo of Alarm and Funny Astro strips the Phillies team of sustain, and soon the rest of the teammates are also sent back to the spawn room. Taking the first fight, the Eternal secure control of the point and begin building up percentage. Using their ultimate advantage, Funny Astro pops his rally and the Eternal take a 4-for-1 trade as another fight breaks out to further extend their control of the objective. With the capture percentage well over 90% for the Eternal, the Fusion backs against the wall, retaliate with Carpe popping off with a big pick onto Hype before he could use Transcendence. And in the ensuing melee follows up with another critical pick onto FD God. Without their backline, the Eternal are forced to retreat and regroup, and the point flips over. With the Eternal only one good fight away from closing out the series, mistakes start to come up, as poor position on the subsequent fight along the walkway sees Ivy using his visor, frontlined by Sato and Poco taking out both FD God and XC. Taking a look at the HUD, you can see that if Ivy was a second too late in focusing FD God, the Eternal would have had their rally on hand and be more able to tank the incoming damage. Suddenly, without their rally, the Eternal react and have Hype pop Transcendence. But the call was made too late, as it fails to generate any value. Both him and Hammond fall as the Fusion secure control of the objective once again. Heading into the last 70 seconds of the map, the Eternal have rally in their ultimate bank with Pulse Bomb well on its way. But the Fusion are able to match this and then some with a rally of their own and a Transcendence advantage on hand. With victory in sight for the Eternal with the objective at 99 to 77%, Paris moves forward as a unit through the left with Hanbin and Soon leading the charge. This blitz begins with FD God using his rally, which forces out a similar response from the Fusion to match the Eternal charge forward. All the while, Carpe is unable to get much value at ground level, as it is far too risky for him to try for a flank, especially with his own pulse bomb nearly ready, and the map being at a point where losing one member carelessly could mean losing the map. With the Fusion backed quite literally into a corner, Soon repositions perpendicular to the stairwell. This is followed by a swift pulse bomb stick which forces Alarm to use Transcendence in order to stay alive. This series of events effectively renders both teams without their defensive ultimates and both supports vulnerable. With this accomplished, the Eternal methodically back up a bit and engage onto the point with XC using his visor looking for some kills. Not letting him have his way, Sato responds by going in for a risky dive, first taking out Soon and then popping Primal Rage to stay alive and scatter the Eternal. In this window, Alarm is able to take out Hype, leaving the Eternal now also down to support. But No Smite answers by diving in with a Primal Rage of his own to eliminate Funny Astro. Forced to fight for his life, XC eventually downs Sato. But things start to look dire, however, as Carpe picks off FD God with a Pulse Bomb. Even though they might have been down a few members, the death timings work in the Eternal's favor, as they are able to regroup for the most part and overwhelm Ivy Soldier. After trading Ivy for No Smite, XC sees that Poco is trying to go for a Poco Bomb from the high ground, and focuses his fire on a defense matrix-less Diva. XC's fire onto the already low health Diva is enough to force Poco to use his ult in a suboptimal position, resulting in no value being gained for the Fusion. With the high ground now in his control after dodging self-destruct, he is able to take out Astro's wall-riding Lucio. This pick onto Astro is huge for the Eternal, as with it XC is able to slow down the rate at which the Fusion are able to build up their sound barrier. Poco, who is now remech'd, dives onto the Soldier, but XC narrowly evades being sent back to spawn by hopping off. He continues to go full carry mode as he turns around to take out Sato's Hammond, who's too distracted trying to get a kill onto Hype. XC, who is still in the fight with his team and is now at the point, demechs Poco and renders the Fusion without their Lucio and tank line. Carpe, refusing to go down without a fight, blinks in to take out Hype before turning his eyes onto Soon. But what wasn't shown on stream was how it was Xe who manages to take out more members of the Fusion, with Ivy eating a face full of Helix rockets and Poco again being demeched before falling shortly after. With the Diva out of the fight, Satos Haman tries to cause as much chaos as he can and buys time for his team to rally together. While he does bait out Soon's Pulse Bomb, Xe was able to build up the rest of his Tact Visor and goes to town on the Fusion who had just returned to the point. Alarm is forced to reactively transcend to keep his team alive. Sato tries to go for Xe, but healing from the Eternal support keeps the soldier alive and ends up with himself being taken out instead. Thanks to Xe's kill earlier onto the fight onto Astro, FD God is able to build up Sound Barrier before the opposing Lucio, and pops his ult at this key moment to keep his team alive, after recognizing the window of vulnerability without a tank line for the Eternal. With no tanks to frontline, the Fusion try to make their way through one of the arches, but FD God buys his team a precious few seconds with a boop to send several Fusion players backwards. Funny Astro becomes one of the key players to take out. And that's exactly what the Eternal do in this chaotic fight with a clutch kill onto the Discord Orbed Fusion. Hanbin and Hype allow not only the Eternal's Diva to build up enough ult meter to remech, but more importantly deny the Fusion of a sound barrier that was 85% near completion. Poco suddenly finds himself surrounded and alone after diving into the Eternal's backline, and tries his best to deny the point flip. But in the midst of all this, Carpe finally falls after being picked off by none other than Xe, who has continued to survive the entire ordeal. Eventually, he too falls as Poco commits to an all-in on him, giving up his own life in the process. However, the damage is already done to the Fusion's lineup, as a defenseless Ivy with no frontline is able to be torn into by Soon. And finally, with no more members able to contest the point, the Eternal are at last able to flip over control and capture the point to close out the series with an upset victory and deny the reverse sweep. Xe and the Eternal truly had an outstanding performance in the final moments of this map. While there may have been some misplays that caused the point to flip over into the hands of the Fusion and make this map a lot closer than it should have been, focus and coordination of the Eternal to deny Funny Astro being able to sound barrier, and the fact that Xe was able to stay alive for so long while also making pick after pick, made for an explosive finish that sent the crowd into an uproar. And that's all for this Behind the Action. Were you as clenched as us during this final map? What are your thoughts on Xe's performance? Let us know in the comments below.